another episode of the DewatchPod podcast. I am Jorgen Smorgasbord.
And I am Jim with a G. And I have to thank you, Jorgen, for starting with your soothing tones, because for a moment I almost forgot that that's a thing we do for recap episodes.
Yeah, we do it reliably and every time because we remember.
We are consistent, we are professional, and we are handsome. Welcome to the DewatchPod podcast, dear listeners.
And we've just dewatched Star Trek Discovery, meaning we have watched one episode from each season in reverse season order. And as the episode picker for this one, I've done my darndest to pick episodes that sort of stand on their own. To mixed success, I would say.
I'd say the majority stood on their own well enough. I think maybe Face the Strange was the one, the difficult one. It seemed like a very scripted season. The rest, I feel like I got the gist, you know?
And before we dive in any further, of course, we should do our classic yes-no of the whole of Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, it's a no.
It's a no.
It's a no. We'll get more into the reasons why, but I think this one was pretty obvious, coming from probably, like, I want to say season 4 and onwards. I felt pretty secure that that's where this was going to go.
Yeah, and like to be clear, it's not because we're racist. We appreciate like they're trying to do like some interesting stuff with diverse casting. They're just not, I don't know. We'll find out why.
It's not a thing I thought about. With all due respect, I feel like you introduced a very unfortunate variable.
No, so I'm. Unfortunately, this variable is not introduced so much by me, but by people on the internet, because people were like, a woman and she's black.
Notoriously lacking female characters, Star Trek.
Yeah, no, I think it's like extremely hard out there for like middling TV starring minority characters.
Yeah. My recent experience of this was Dragon Age Veilguard, as you are well aware of. Bad game, not bad for the reasons people say it is online.
Yeah, no, like having a non-binary character is really not what makes either of those things even a little bit worse. It's interesting.
Yeah, the important thing is that this podcast is not racist. It's not homophobic.
It's not. We respect all minorities.
We are, in fact, completely immune to propaganda and bias. Welcome to the DewatchPod podcast.
Yeah. But yeah. If you should nevertheless go through the episodes that we have watched in a bit catch-up sprint.
Yes. We have watched Face the Strange.
We have watched Anomaly.
We have watched Forget Me Not.
New Eden.
And finally, Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad.
And for those, the content warnings are murder.
Poison.
Light gore.
Mass death.
Grief and trauma.
Suicide.
Violence.
Parasite.
Death.
Torture.
And animal mistreatment, but not, that central.
Yeah, it's a lot of these. I've said this before in this podcast in general, that like since leaving Black Mirror, we have just bit by bit gone down in what we consider a threshold for a content warning.
Yeah, no, there's no one in the writers' room who's like, let's shock the audience. Let's shock the audience with something.
There was something that shocked me in the latest episode, however.
Yeah, you've been going. Let's get it out of the way.
Yeah, so there's a line where he goes, there's the one goes, "You're mad," and the man named Mud says, "I'm not mad, I'm Mud."
And Jim has been going on about this for about the last week, or at least the time since we recorded.
It's such a beautiful line. I think the thing that shocks about me, if I'm going to use this as a segue, the thing that shocks about me is that it's such a nonsense line in such an otherwise corporate and sterile show. I'm coming out swinging here a bit, but I just like Strange New Worlds, and I said this before in previous episodes, I believe. Strange New Worlds, yeah, it was a bit formulaic at times. It was a bit, like, safe, but it still felt like they were having fun writing it and they were getting a bit silly here and there. Sure, no great statements, no great, like, shocks, but, like, it felt like there was spirit to it. And I feel no spirit in Star Trek Discovery. And it makes me sad.
Well, so, now, I don't think that is entirely fair, because I think, like, this... I'm not sure, like, about the production conditions of this, but my impression is that they were really swinging for the fences, and not, like, particularly close to getting to what they were trying to do. And I can only assume that, like, the writers were either bad or massively under-resourced, or maybe both. Yeah, at some point you sort of produce one with the other. And no, they had like a good showrunner, actually, at least on season 1. I forget the name now, but he was also on, like, Hannibal and stuff. So, like, there was, like, something here, and it just, like, well, it never comes together, and clearly, like, the show knows this.
Well, like, what do you think they were swinging for?
So this is a bit, well, at least this is a bit subjective. But, like, in my mind, this show slots in, like, into the, like, with the time when it was made, it slots in, like, very well with, like, sort of the heyday of, like, Marvel TV shows that were sort of doing, like, and, like, sort of Netflix golden age stuff, where it was like, we're doing, like, these like, long running, like, season long arcs that are, like, sort of, like, tie together mostly, and tell, like, a fairly big story. And, you know, like, obviously the shine has come off of that style of storytelling, like, a lot. Because, like, if you want to tell, like, a season long story, you, like, really need to have, like, a lot of, like, skill and planning. And what actually happens, obviously, is that you just, like, do, like, filler in that you, like, hunt down red herrings and go, like, anyway, to keep the simple, we're returning to the main plot now with little more information after having closed out this red herring or side plot. And that's obviously, like, not, you know, the most, like, you can obviously do it in an interesting way, probably, but it's not, like, what I'm necessarily looking for when I see a show that, like, ties together its whole season. Because I have, like, a personal deep aversion to, like, the constant cliffhangers that sort of drive that era of television. I don't know how much, like, I definitely, like, felt that with Discovery a bit, but I don't know if it was, like, especially at least early on, like, actually that much of an issue. But yeah, no, they were trying to, like, do, like, a big arc, right? They had, like, serious budget, like, and we're like, oh yeah, no, we're just gonna make this look like the fucking J.J. Abrams films that had movie budget. As we've pointed out previously, also in the editing. But, like, even still, like, it just, like, the visual fidelity is, like, astonishing, and so poorly adapted to making a fucking TV show that's supposed to be, like, sensible to like, finance.
I suppose, like, I'm sort of uniquely ill-suited to analyze it from that perspective, because this was not an era of television where I watched television, nor like anything I'm really interested in. I think, I guess the second part is that it probably doesn't really become conducive to us doing our show. No. But nonetheless, we plow on in spite of our, unsuitability. I think it's interesting because, like, now that I reflect upon it, the editing was what stuck out to me so much when we first started watching Discovery. And I feel like it's not nearly as much of an issue in the first like 2 seasons that we watched. At least it doesn't come out as much because there's multiple scenes in the later seasons where I'm like, oh yeah, they're trying to do the big like panning camera or like, shifting sort of backgrounds and all of that. And I feel like the episodes we watch from season 1 and 2 are fairly conventionally shot.
I wasn't paying attention to that.
But I think the fact that you aren't noticing it might say,
Yeah.
right?
No, I can't reflect on it well, but
because I feel like
that's interesting.
When we started watching Discovery, it wasn't like you hadn't told me. You might have told me, but I had forgotten.
Yeah.
But like some of the scenes made me almost feel motion sick with how badly they were put together. So like it stuck out.
Well, I think this sort of leads like very well into like the sort of eternal plague of this like series. Which is that like they're constantly reinventing themselves.
Yeah. That's definitely a thing.
Right, like you saw some faces you've never seen before in season 1 and only season 1. And then season 2 they're like gearing I don't know if this is intentional, but I suspect it is. Where they're like, this prequel thing is a massive corner we've written ourselves into. We're gonna have like a meta plot that like sets up doing season 3, in the future.
Yeah.
Which like, to be clear, is like an absolutely fucking insane thing to spend a whole season on.
Yeah.
Like, jump to the future immediately, or like, what are you doing?
You gotta feel pretty confident in your funding, at least, if you're doing something like that. But like,
which, to be fair, like, they kind of could be, because it's Star Trek. They're trying to bring back Star Trek, and they're failing.
Yeah, but like, the cost will be paid by future shows, not them,
Yeah. And so in season 3 they're like, all right, and I think at some point they're like, no, we're gonna do like a big shake-up every season. And I think like you can read this either way, that they're just like shaking things up every season, or just still scrambling, and I don't know which is true. And at some point, sorry, who's our protagonist? My mind is only drawing Beckett Mariner.
Michael Burnham?
Yeah, so at some point, like, Burnham becomes captain, and it becomes a different thing again, right? So, like, they do, like, every season, they do, like, their, like, season-long meta plot, that sort of is, like, somewhat, involving, like, whatever the new development is. And, yeah, it doesn't...
Like, I don't dislike it conceptually. That's the thing, is I think it's interesting to me that there is like a kind of rotating cast of characters in that sense.
Yeah.
Like I quite like that. Obviously I don't have the full context for them. But like I don't know, it makes sense. Like this is a high action ship, right? It gets into a lot of shit.
Yeah.
It makes sense that some people would die or whatever, like or like just be shifted in and out as we go. My thought about it is more like, it does feel a lot of the time like they don't know where they want to land. Like Burnham is the most obvious example, right? Because like, was it like season 3 is when I find out that she's like Spock's half sister, which I must throw in there. Was that established from the start? By the way,
I think it's like a fairly big thing that like comes out during season 1.
Okay. Well, like, that's the thing, right? So, like, in season 1, she's supposed to be like, yes, she's essentially a Vulcan, and she's emotionless and doing the whole logic thing and socially awkward. And then by season 3, and, like, the rest of the show, she's kind of, like, going back and forth from being, like, cowboy cop to, like, by-the-book cop. And I don't know why. Like, the whole Vulcan thing is, like, yeah, she's still technically, quote-unquote, half Vulcan in that sense, but, like, that's not a thing anymore as far as like plot relevance. It's just that like her personality shifts constantly, and I can't help but feel like that is a symptom of some greater disease in the show, right? About them not knowing where they want their people to be. Because I'm thinking about, like, it feels like, at the very least, like, Saru seems to me like an obvious, like, here's the by the book cop you can
Yeah.
have as a foil. I don't know who would be, like, the cowboy cop foil, but, like, I'm sure you could have one, right? You can have Stamets as
I
kind of
think
an
he more or
asshole.
less emerges as like a foil to like Cowboy Burnham.
Yeah, so it's very strange to be like, okay, but now both of you are by the book people again. Now both
Yeah.
of you are going like, that's not regulation. Where? So I don't know what you're doing with the show as a whole, right? And to me that means that like all of these shakeups feel kind of meaningless. It feels like jiggling things in the background that don't actually change what the show is as a whole, right?
Mm.
Like just throwing like you're now in the future, like, oh, okay, interesting. Um, but why?
I
On a
think
deeper level, why?
I think another problem that like the constant like uh you know sort of the constant like rethinking of the show creates is that like um they're they end up like relying on Burnham like so much as like the one like consistent piece
Mm.
um that like first of all it fails because she like they keep changing her to like match the like changing show, but also like um because things are moving so much they're like yeah no so this is her and we're not going to like give like that much breathing room to the rest of the cast of characters. And right there's even though like they're like yeah no here's Saru um who's like kind of a big deal like he doesn't end up being that important like that much of the time I feel.
I feel like largely the only other character who gets serious characterization is like Stamets. And like I guess Adira, but I'm only saying that because we watched the
No,
Adira episode, right?
Adira Adira is like intermittently there. Tilly is probably actually the other major one.
Because I've seen Tilly in a couple of
Yeah,
episodes. I
because she
just
is there from the beginning. But I think they like she is kind of a point of struggle because presumably like that was one of the big like annoying woman I'm going to complain about this. And like I
yeah,
don't
that makes
even
sense.
remember if her character was annoying or not. Like her character is to be annoying to be clear.
Yeah, like
Um
I guess I don't think Tilly's that like there's much to her either. Like she's like a little bit of an arrogant scientist, I guess. But it doesn't come
there's
out that
she
strongly.
has like these sort of like bumbling awkward thing.
Yeah,
Um
that was also around this time that
yeah.
was a big thing, right?
But yeah, no, like so like we have just like this thing where like sort of all the edges like get sanded off of Burnham and like no one else is getting like enough screen time.
It yeah, the need to fit Burnham into every plot is like I think we talked about this during the idea episode that like
Yeah.
we you
Why are you here?
it's not a Mary Sue thing, right? It's an issue of like characters should have things they are good at and things they are bad at. And then you shouldn't be like, how can we fit Burnham into this plot? You should be, who makes sense to put here?
But instead they're like, well, we need to put Burnham everywhere. So Burnham is like just like accumulating competencies like just like rapidly to go like, no, I'm fit for this plot as well because I need to be in it for reasons that are like not entirely clear.
Yeah, like, I don't know how that happened, because, like, with all due respect, like, I don't actively dislike Burnham, but, like,
Yeah, no, I think you're sort of like approaching the problem a little bit. Like this is wild speculation, but first of all, I think like Sonequa Martin Green, the actress, like is genuinely like very good and charismatic. So like even though she's giving like strange and bad material, she like puts her fucking heart and soul into it.
Yeah, I feel like I feel a little bit of the strain behind her as she's being like given the next script that tells her to do the opposite of what her character was last episode every time. But she's clearly trying and doing her
Yeah,
best with it.
and I suspect like at some point she like became like very integral, and everybody was like, "No, I just what if we did more with her though?" uh, like I think people maybe like liked working with her or something along those lines too much, and then it became like, yeah, no, obvious. I know, maybe it was a mandate. Who knows? Maybe someone decided people need to know a familiar face, so she's gonna be front and center in every episode.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach. Like I guess, like it I suppose there was a feeling somewhere that Burnham's like overarching story felt too integral to the plot of the show as a whole, because like she's coming from this like she's a half Vulcan allegedly, like she's got a whole like talk about like she was a mutineer that got rescued and then she becomes the captain, like just the idea of that, I don't know, that like her personal progression is the plot more than the plot is the plot.
Yeah.
And then that just gets woven into, well, she needs to be here, of course. You know, like it's just a strange way to approach it, because I feel like some of the joy of Star Trek is that you have this crew, you have this colorful crew of nerds who all are that's something I felt like Strange New Worlds was pretty good at, right? Like you had the situations where like I don't know if I could know who the protagonist of Strange New Worlds is, right? You know, you have...
I mean, I think like comparing, and I of course have the advantage of having seen more Star Trek here, but even Stranger New Worlds is like, I think, a bit more Pike heavy than like other Star Treks are Captain heavy.
You're right.
But you know, not to like a major extent, but like generally speaking, yeah, you basically have like sort of a cross section of the crew that like you know, sort of variably enters the spotlight. And here we just have like, hey, so we lost all the crew from the last season. Like Lorca, he's gone.
Yeah.
Michelle Yeoh, so she's sort of back, but you know, that's not gonna be comprehensible for a bit. And there's Tilly, who is the exact same rank as Burnham. And I guess the one character who like actually like gets like the classical cross section bonus is Stamets.
Yeah, no, Stamets ends up, I think, being the best character.
Yeah, Stamets ends up being just like a character that is frequently relevant and gets like a little bit of screen time frequently.
I think what really helps with Stamets is that he actually does have edges, right? Like he is kind of a piece of garbage, not infrequently, and that's refreshing. Like I was thinking about this now with a comparison to someone like Pike, right? Is that I don't think Michael Burnham is. Sorry, I tranced Michael Burnham by accident.
She's a woman. Michelle Yeoh is also a woman.
I like the idea of Michael Burnham transitioning into being a trans man and naming himself Michelle Burnham. Anyway, I think like talking about Captain Pike, because I don't think Michael Burnham is a Mary Sue by any description. But I think one of the things that is actually quite useful from that perspective is that the thing about Mary Sue's is that if you have to have every competence under the sun and everyone likes you and everyone depends on you, there isn't actually a lot of space to have a personality behind that.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing I think about Captain Pike is that like I quite like Pike because there is more to him than being a captain, right? Like just like we get to see his hobbies and like some stuff from his like actual backstory, but more importantly, he has issues, right? Like
yeah.
He is a bit overly cautious. He's like a bit like difficult to work with from like an intimacy standpoint, like emotionally. Like there is texture to him, but I feel like there isn't space to give Burnham texture because she needs to show up and be the centerpiece in everyone's plot,
Well,
including...
she starts with texture But
Yeah.
the issue is that like they're like, all right, so obviously we're gonna like drop the Vulcan thing, and she's no longer going to be like this mutineer. We'll just leave that one for lower decks, I guess. Um,
It's bizarre. Like I don't know why they so quickly decided upon this like path for her.
I it must have been someone deciding that the show needs a capital P protagonist,
Yeah.
right? Like, which is like extremely damaging.
I can understand it to some point of view if they had the idea that they were, and it's very hard to say if they actually did have this idea, but functionally the crew keeps getting replaced, like there are big pivots in what the show is about. So it makes sense that they were like, we need an island of stability, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's not, the juice is not worth the squeeze here.
Yeah, no, I think the problem is that they were like, because like Burnham is they do like a lot of interesting stuff with her, even if some of it is like bizarrely fan servicey, like being Spock's sister.
Yeah,
But
extremely
like
fan fiction material.
she is just straight up like a rebel in like so many senses. Like she kills her captain in episode 1 or 2.
Hell yeah.
Um
Based.
like for very strange and elaborate reasons, and is like kind of an extremist early on, and I forget what reason they even to keep her in Starfleet. But like that makes her like an extremely important person. Um and like her being, and that does not mesh well with her being the actual protagonist, right? The
Yeah.
protagonist cannot be like a person who like, if like an entire like cannot be the person that an entire faction is mad at.
She's like a video game protagonist more than a show protagonist.
Yeah,
And
for
that's
sure.
really unfortunate.
Yeah, no,
But
like the protagonist should have been Tilly. Like, and it should have been like, oh my god, I'm being made to deal with an insane person. And then they don't like need to like like sand the edges of Burnham to like make her like work in more stuff. Like she can be like a problem
yeah,
if she is not the
because
protagonist.
Stamets gets to be a problem. And
Yeah.
that's what makes him a good character. He's really annoying. I love him.
Yeah, no. So like strong take, Tilly should have been the protagonist.
I feel like I
If
haven't
they
seen enough of Tilly to know, but like certainly,
She doesn't have that much going on. Like she's just a normal person
yeah,
who's like made to room with Burnham, and like that would have been like probably a stronger approach than going like, all right, she's the most important person, and also she needs to be in every plot, even if it doesn't super make sense.
yeah.
So yeah,
But I feel like the fact that Burnham's issues and like the issues she causes as part of like that characterization doesn't to me fully explain the rest of the show, right? Because I still think there's so much of it that just feels so lackluster.
no, I think there is just like, I think they have these season arcs, and they don't have like the ability or resources to do them well.
Yeah.
So they don't. Right? So we have like
yeah.
we have like a lot of the show's resources being dedicated to like, yeah, no, so we're gonna write like half an episode on this planet, and the other half like, I know they need to like divert an asteroid, whatever. Right, that's by far the most dire, like the
Yeah.
B plot like is completely fucking pointless one,
Yeah.
because they forget to make it clear to the people on the planet that they're even in peril.
We had this discussion a lot during Lower Decks that it felt like a lot of the time like there's an A plot and there's a B plot, and the B plot and A plot do not come together meaningfully. But like they made an effort. Like they at least tried to be like, oh, what are you guys up to at the end of an episode? And they
Yeah.
just don't do that.
And then they like weirdly resolve each other a little bit, and that's also a bit annoying. But like here, it's like, it's not so, because like Lower Decks A and B plots had like, they had stuff going on, right? They had
Yeah.
like, they had energy. And here it's like usually like, oh yeah, no, so this is the episode and this is the filler.
It feels so completely disconnected. Like it just feels like here's another thing that technically qualifies as a plot happening elsewhere. And like, there's a reason television shows do an A plot and a B plot for sure, but again, the juice is not worth the squeeze here of having a B plot if that's the level you're gonna put it at. Like, you could at least do something else on the planet. I don't know, like have them find a weird thing and just be like, here's like every now and then we'll cut to these other two guys finding a weird thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Even better.
But like they do like drop that eventually, I think.
Maybe, yeah. I think the thing that strikes me too is the Forget Me Not B plot is better than the A plot. But I also understand why it would have been difficult to make the whole episode about the B plot.
You know what's fucked about Forget Me Not? Stamets is like Adira's like major like sort of parental figure.
Really?
So I need you to like envision Forget Me Not, and switch the positions of Stamets and Burnham, and just like ponder how much better that version of the episode is.
Oh, that's so sad. I had no idea that was their relationship.
Yeah, no, Burnham being there at the big meltdown dinner, probably more interesting than Burnham going like, yeah, no, I reckon I have a hook on this Trill thing. And Stamets having to do weird parent shit. Obviously cool.
I love that for some reason, now that I've established Burnham as a video game protagonist, this is just them not bringing the correct companion to the quest. I'm a big fan of that.
You brought the companion that doesn't have like a faction allegiance, so all their dialogue is generic. Like, no, yeah, you should obviously bring the faction allegiance protagonist, like, character on the faction quest. What are you doing? You're missing out on relationship points. But yeah, no, it's God.
I'm pretty proud of that revelation. No, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's meaningful, but it is very funny. I'm trying to think, like, do we like get like a larger meaning out of this show?
No. Okay, maybe that was too fast, but like I feel like if you're gonna have themes, something needs to be established first, right? Like, you can't, I'm sure someone could, but generally speaking, you can't just launch into here's the messages if you don't have like a solid grounding, right? And I feel like Discovery never gets the solid grounding.
Yeah, I think like what ends up happening is that like most of the themes that we end up like actually engaging with a little bit are not like so much sci-fi, but they're like, I'm struggling for a better word than Disney, but I think it is just like sort of like big Disney messages like, yeah, no, accept yourself and, you know, like face your grief.
And Strange New Worlds had a bit of that for sure, right? But like, it felt like it actually got there in a more coherent way.
Yeah.
And with more fun ways to get there in particular.
But yeah, no, and
the closest I think to being actually interesting was probably New Eden, right?
Yeah,
weird
and that
religion
one,
stuff.
like, really, that one is the one that has the most, like, the side plot is just a waste of time.
Yeah.
And I assume it's, like, a thing that matters for the meta plot, but I'm not even sure how that would work.
I think this is also, like, part of why I feel like this show is so corporate, because it's so paint by the numbers. Like, it feels like you could have looked at this and be like, does this need a B plot? You know?
Yeah.
And the answer was yes. A B plot, not anything specific, just a thing.
Yeah, see, my suspicions run a bit differently, which I don't know. I don't want to, like, just go in like, yeah, no, they probably had, like, management interference or something. What if it was just, like, they didn't have, like, a setup that, like, was actually conducive to, like, I'm thinking still, like, under-resourced writing, because that was, like, one of the big quote-unquote innovations of the time of making TV shows. Yeah. And especially with just, like, the amount of resources that must have gone to VFX.
Yeah, I can't really speculate to what exactly caused it. I don't think it's necessarily like a mandate thing.
But like you don't need like the most competent writer to look at New Eden and go like, hold on, like we need to tie these things together. right? Like, like asteroid falling. Maybe it's like a little bit of an apocalypse vibe.
Yeah,
That's going to, maybe the religious people are going to like invent a rapture thing on the fly, whatever.
yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of
like,
scripture to go off of, as is established.
yeah, no,
Like
like
that's a
there's like a lot of like, but it's just literally like there has just not been like that like pass of the script where it's like these are the things that we like fit into this place and we're just going to like you know c- connect them, right? That just has not been done. And
yeah.
that like that cannot, like, you cannot find a writer that is like hireable for TV that has does not have the competency to go like, oh yeah, no, we'll like do a little bit of connecting here, right? That is not like a level of competence that I think the writers for this can be below.
That's
So
the
I
thing.
think it must be like they do not have like the time and energy.
Yeah, it feels like a time crunch scenario potentially, because I think you're right about this. That like it feels like, just from like a structural perspective, like this feels like a first draft in a lot of ways, right? Where you're like, we're gonna throw out some stuff and then we'll connect them, we'll workshop them later, and then that later doesn't happen, right?
Yeah,
Because like, as you say, like obviously the A plot and B plot of New Eden are so should be so easy to connect,
yeah,
and counterpoint, there's also a lot of stuff in there that's like, why do you establish this if it's not going to show up later? Such as like, yes, the religion here is a mishmash of every other religion that we know of, including Wicca, noticeably. Uh,
yeah,
like that seems the scene establishes this as
yeah.
important, and it's not. And that's like one of those things that an actual second pass of any writer would be like, maybe we don't need to focus on that,
Yeah,
or
no.
connect it later. And
Like it's all placeholder where they were like, well, we need all these things to happen here, and like here's an interesting we thought about doing, and so that can be here, and the meta plot needs these things to happen at some point in these sequences, and then like somebody like hurriedly like writes like enough of a script to film, and nobody goes like, all right, and now let's like do the like minutia.
yeah, like I was gonna say, like, especially later in the show, I feel like there's a lot of dialogue that to me reads as like just a bit too unsubtle, in a way that like we are establishing the mechanic of the plot that is supposed to happen here.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry, because I know I mentioned this during the Forget Me Not episode and I couldn't remember the line, but there is like the line where they get ambushed and it's just like a, you'll never get out of here alive, like something like that, and I'm just like, this doesn't, this reads like you are putting bullet points down, and there's so much dialogue like that.
Yeah, come on, like it's a perfect place to like invent a like space slur.
Coming out as a pro slur podcast.
Listen, I think slurs are strong world building.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Well, you know what? Immediately retracting that. Coming up with slurs is really hard, and if you do it badly, you sound like super stupid.
Yeah, but that's where you got to put a lot of effort into the slurs, you know. Like
Yeah.
you gotta invent your own history around how a certain slur was invented, so you don't end up with like knife ear. Uh, that's me citing Dragon Age, by the way. But yeah, no, like it just a lot of this show feels like they just say like, we don't have enough money for a second draft, but we do have enough money to do CGI of a space whale that's just background.
Yeah, no, like, and that was like a good looking space whale.
It was a beautiful space whale.
Like, what if you had a big rock instead?
I think the thing that strikes me is, I know I keep comparing it to Strange New Worlds, but I feel like it's an able comparison. Strange New Worlds put a lot of money into its like special effects, and it was gorgeous. But I still felt like they created stuff around it. Still, you know.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the flaws of Strange New Worlds, but like here, the sacrifice just seems so much bigger. And it's like, I don't know, it's just, it's like a step below on so many points. Like the editing, the writing, the characters just feels like a step below what is even like acceptable, right? There are places in other shows where I go like, it's not amazing, but it's fine.
Yeah.
And that's Discovery doesn't quite get there for a lot of its aspects to me.
Yeah, no, like it genuinely like just like implies like an insanely bad production setup.
Yeah.
Where someone was like, ah, yeah, 5 billion for the visual artists, who presumably still are somehow underpaid.
Yeah, of course.
Um, and $1 for the writers.
Don't spend it all on one script.
Yeah, no,
I,
God, it's a train wreck, man, and they're like clearly like everybody involved like cares so much, and their efforts are just not being directed at the thing that is most urgent.
yeah, it strikes me as such an interesting contrast because I feel like Star Trek. I don't know the details of the like production, but genuinely, it feels like Star Trek was always such a high concept show, and like if you look at like the Next Generation, it's not like the visual effects are stunning.
Yeah, no, no, like it's studio shit, right? They're like, oh, yeah, no, we need to save money. Ah, they're going in the holodeck to one of these Western sets that we have a dime a dozen here.
It's just like I don't know, like I'm not against shows reinventing themselves, but it's strange, I guess, to kind of miss that spirit and go the opposite direction.
Yeah, no, like just like where's the holodeck? Like save money at some point.
Yeah, do a weird thing where they're going to like the Middle Ages or something. Maybe they meet some sort of Mongols on the steppe and create a very misogynistic episode. Anyway,
That was a reference to Stargate, if you're keeping track. Don't watch the Mongol episode of
it's the
Stargate.
only episode I've watched, and I
And it
have
might be the worst one.
I have gotten the information, yes, that it's like widely considered the worst one and quite offensive at that.
And yeah, God, what a sad state of affairs. Like I'm trying to like arrange my brain with whether I want to look at like the contemporary history of that or not. But I think I'm mostly landing on like it's just gonna be sad.
Yeah.
Like it's just going to be people who are like, yeah, no, like we tried so hard to make this fucking gorgeous intro. Because
Yeah.
like Star Trek inspired us as children to become artists that like try to like blend like visual effects with like a sort of like scientific approach.
I was recently reading like just like a week ago or something. I was reading this book about a very troubled production of Dragon Age 2,
Mm.
and it's a very interesting look into this like they wanted to do some new stuff with it and they had to do some new stuff with it because they got 12 months to develop the entire game. Um, and this like sort of tension between like we want to be innovative and we have absolutely no resources to do so and we're still gonna try, and then facing the backlash eventually when it comes out.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think of the 5 seasons of this show, and every time they try a new reinvention and it just falls flat. I don't know how you recover emotionally from that. Like if you've been on the entire show and you just keep trying and it never goes anywhere. That must
Yeah.
be so demoralizing.
No, like it I feel very bad for everyone who like
Genuinely, yeah.
put like so much of because like it's so hard to make stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's so hard to make like video games or TV, and like there's so many like resources and like people are like, yeah, no, I'm like presumably like fighting someone like with a knife to get like one non-binary character in there. And then it's like, yeah, no, so we're gonna obviously use Michael Burnham as a foil. No Trill connection, just that seems like it makes sense. Um,
It's also just the aspect, and like this is true for all production on some extent, but like the fact that you don't know how it comes together until it's done, right? Like
yeah.
the editing, whatever like stuff they had to cut out, however like the performances came across, like the fact that you don't know how it lands until the very end, and you go like, oh no.
Yeah, no, and like there is like some quite famous stories of like major like successes or like everybody involved was like, this is a fucking train wreck. Like,
Yeah.
right? Like, to just name off the dome, like Fury Road, like maybe one of the most acclaimed movies of the century. um, shooting that one early, but I
Yeah.
think it might hold. Like, is like people were like, this is gonna be like this is so bad, like this is going so poorly, like because like everyone production was a complete nightmare, and then like they managed to like pull it together. And there's like a bunch of stories like this, so I reckon like when you're sitting there and going like, they sure are spending all the money on VFX, but maybe like maybe there'll be something that I'm like missing that'll like tie this together,
Yeah.
Maybe the meta plot will like resonate a bit more than like it does when I'm like doing it in this way, in this place. And then it never does. And
Yeah.
that's right, but I guess you just gotta like have that hope, because clearly like they're showing up and doing their fucking best.
I just think it's like, at least if you're on something like Game of Thrones and you're like, you get to have the like, holy shit, I'm nailing it the entire time, until like the kind of the end where you're like, oh, like a fucking, suddenly I'm just dragged to the depths of the ocean
What do you
immediately.
mean you don't need lighting to shoot this?
Like, I think the sadder part is somehow like this sensation of discovery where they're just treading water, like slowly drowning the
Yeah.
entire time, and there's always hope, and it never comes. It's never realized.
Yeah.
I don't know. That, I feel like that would break me a little bit. I've had like, if we're going on to the creative side of things, I've GM'd RPG campaigns where I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere with this, but I cut it off after like 2 months of trying. 5 seasons. Whew. You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was like the modern Star Trek, like, renewal, and they were like, we gotta nail this, and they really didn't.
And you like, that's the thing too, is that you're the torchbearer of this like insanely culturally influential and acclaimed work.
Yeah.
And you just like, listen, if you're doing Star Wars, you're like, well, all of these are trash. Like, it's fine if I just make another trash movie.
No, I reckon they're probably just distressed, but I think Star Trek has, like, a little bit of a different place.
It has a like, I
Where
don't
it's
know.
where it's like more like meaningful than just
Yeah.
like so much sentimentality. Yeah.
No, it's fucking sad, man. I don't know where to go with this. Like, I don't think I
Well,
expected to be this sad by the end of this episode.
I think this is a very good opportunity to once more plant this podcast's flag as a very harsh anti-copyright one, because good
That's
God,
mostly you, to be clear.
yeah, but I think you can support what I'm about to say
Okay.
when I say that copyright is like, Star Trek is fucking old, man.
Yeah.
Like, copyright is the reason. And there is like 100 people like making like worse and better shows than this. Um and sort of like things working themselves out without the one shot having to be the big one, because like fucking Larry Ellison is like, yeah, no, I can be talked around to letting these communists have like another go within reason. Wink, don't get too communist. Whatever. And it's like, yeah, no, what are you gonna do? You need, there needs to be, this is cultural heritage, like it needs to be in the hands of more people than like whoever, like the fucking studio system like flushes at the feet of whoever's greenlighting like more Star Trek stuff.
Beautiful. Put Star Trek in a museum and allow all people, whatever their heritage, to access it.
Yeah. No, but we don't live in that world yet. And while we don't, it's gonna be like this.
Write fan fiction instead, I guess, is where we're ending up here.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of good novels.
Yeah.
Could be reading those instead.
Well, if we are to look more on the bright side, where are we heading next, Jorgen?
Well, we are heading more or less towards, and I didn't do this on purpose, but we are heading towards a different riff on like the ideas behind Star Trek, with the Orville.
I love when I set something up for you perfectly and you immediately like knock it out and say like, anyway, I didn't set this up.
Well, I was referencing the copyright thing.
Yeah, but I feel like the Orville is a great example of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I set that up for you.
Yeah, but I started the copyright.
Yeah, and then I set up the segue. Anyway, we're heading to the Orville.
Yeah, we're doing the Orville next.
Yeah, which is apparently Star Trek, but not Star Trek.
Yeah, because that would be illegal.
Taps forehead. No, I'm intrigued by this based on what you described about the Orville. Like, it feels like we'll actually have quite some to bite into with our D-Watch perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the Orville famously, or I don't know if it's that famous, but it's
probably famous to you.
It's supposedly like fairly good at what it's doing, but it didn't start doing it until like a while in, and they were just like, we would actually rather make Star Trek than comedy Star Trek.
Many such cases.
And yeah, so that's our next quote unquote intermission.
Yeah, we're really sticking to the intermissioning, going so far away from the core of this podcast.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I suppose we shall have to see you there.
Yeah, thanks for listening, and see you on the other side.
See ya.